Hi, my name is William Smith from CX Today, bringing all the latest customer experience industry news. Today I'm joined by John Ferrara, founder and CEO of Nimble. John, I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey to your current role.
Well, first off, thank you for inviting me for the conversation. I think that we all grow when we share our knowledge, and my background is as a software entrepreneur. Really started when I bought my first computer in 1978. I was really one of the first people in my city who had a computer, and I did that because I'm just fascinated with technology and its application to improving our lives. I kind of fell into the creating software because I had a personal need. I had a problem. I couldn't manage my relationships effectively in my sales role. And I looked around for a solution. I couldn't find it. And so I built it. And it turned out that millions of other people had the same problem.
Well, and obviously we're talking about CRM today. I wonder what were the problems that the CRM category kind of emerged to address as you see it?
Well, I think that the heart of CRM is relationships, because ultimately the roots of CRM are in the Rolodex, if you will. So basically, there's a guy named Dunbar, an English chap, who did a study about how many people can you manage in your head at one time, and it's about 100 to 200, and most people have more than that. And so humans have developed tools to manage relationships over time. And I'm not going to start with the Sumerian clay forms that they might have used back in the day, but certainly we started out with the Rolodex, and that evolved into something called a day timer. And really around that time, people used index cards to manage their relationships and their callbacks. So you'd put a note on an 6x9 index card, you put the notes on who you spoke to and what the call was about, and then you put a date of when you want to recall them, and you file it based off that recall date. And so the 6x9 index card and day timers was the root of CRM. So really, CRM didn't start out as a management command and control platform that it is today, but more about empowering the customer-facing business team member to be more effective at managing their relationships, their tasks, and their appointments. And I think that business is really about the basics. And I think that we all struggle with the basics, which is managing those connections to drive them into a measurable business outcome. Because we need systems to organize it. And so I struggled as a sales rep with my day timer, managing my pipeline. There was no Outlook, there was no Salesforce, there was no CRM or SFA. And so I wanted a tool that integrated email, contact, and calendar, and sales and market automation. And there was a plugin to Symphony, which was a spreadsheet called Act, which enabled you to manage tasks and notes for an individual. But I saw the need for a team relationship manager, because I think that business people work as teams in most instances, whether it's a corporate office and field district offices, which was my situation. And what I wanted was the ability so that no matter who picked up the phone in my team, they knew who they were talking to, what's pending, who's going to do it, what's been done, who's done it, and all the interactions that occurred. And it didn't exist. So back in the days of DOS, I quit my job and started a company called GoldMine, which pioneered contact management and CRM.
And has anything kind of surprised you about the way the CRM category has evolved over the years?
Well, if you think about the biggest problem with CRM, it's lack of use and bad data. Lack of use because you have to force salespeople to use it. That's why they call it Salesforce. And bad data because even if people do type data in, it decays and rots over time like fish. And so I think that the fact that there's 225 million global businesses and less than 1% use any CRM is a testimony that CRM today doesn't really work for salespeople like it should. And I can tell you the history of that because I actually participated in it. When GoldMine started, it was the team relationship manager for the whole company, not just salespeople. So everybody in the company lived in one contact platform. And what happened was salespeople had specific functions for automating sales and marketing processes, but it's not just salespeople that touch the customer. It's everybody in the team: sales, marketing, customer service, accounting, management, product, etc. And everybody participates in that journey. So I think it's important that there is a single relationship system of record to manage those connections. And GoldMine was that for the business, but then Microsoft doesn't innovate, they iterate. They wait for somebody else to build the market, and they come in when it's big enough and they build something good enough. They built Outlook, and Outlook became the team contact platform. So people lived in Outlook, but they would go to the CRM to log the stuff so management would get off their back. But if you think about it, GoldMine and Act were the Bibles for salespeople globally back in the day. They lived in it. They paid for it themselves. And then companies like Siebel and eventually Salesforce came out with enterprise CRMs that essentially controlled the contact journey and platform. And the problem is that they didn't really deliver the relationship management stuff that they needed because it was already in Outlook. So they didn't build good contact management in. And even today, if you think about CRM, you can't just give a sales rep CRM. You've got to go out and buy sales intelligence software, which could be Discover.org or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because a sales rep should prepare before they engage. So they need to know who the person is and what the business is about. And you don't want them Googling it and having to go type that in. So you go buy sales intelligence software, which is like the map for the salesperson. And then you need to give them a rifle. You need to give them templated email outreach software that enables a sales rep, once they get the lead, to outreach and start the connection and conversation. And so CRM isn't even enough today. Companies have to go out and buy at least sales intelligence and sales enablement email tracking like SalesLoft or Outreach.io. And the problem is that when you get done doing that, it's going to cost you $300 to $500 per month per rep to automate them, and the reps don't even know how to use all that software effectively. So then you got to go out and hire sales administrators. And so I think that CRM today has forgotten about what R is, relationships, and they think it's about reporting. So most CRMs are command and control systems to manage leads and track what salespeople are doing. And sales reps basically don't live in the CRM. They live in their email inboxes and now social. And so you work for your CRM, it doesn't work for you, and you have to go to it to use it, and that's why people don't use it. I think the future CRM will work for you by building itself and then work with you everywhere you work, so that if I am talking to somebody, I could just hover on their record with a cursor in whatever application or browser I am in, and it'll bring up the record if it exists and tell me the history of interactions by my team and myself, and then give me the ability to engage effectively, but most importantly, to follow up and follow through. Because if you don't log a note and you don't schedule a task after an engagement, then you're basically just wasting the engagement. And most people don't do the basics, which is follow up and follow through on the things you commit to. And if you could do that effectively, your sales will soar.
Well, and going forward, are you kind of hopeful of that problem being remedied, or do you see it becoming kind of more entrenched?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I got back in the saddle with Nimble. And so with Nimble, we've effectively built what we pioneered with GoldMine, which is a CRM that at its heart is a really amazing contact platform. And we also pioneered social CRM and social selling because Nimble was the first CRM to integrate LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the different social platforms, because this is how you connect to build intimacy and trust with customers. And in fact, William, in the old days, I used to teach people when you go in somebody's office, look at their walls, look at the books they read, the degree of the school they went to, the knickknacks they collect. All these things will give you a clue into who that person is that you can then share with that person in order to develop the intimacy and trust to get them to open up to you about their business issues, which as a professional you can then solve. And so not only do I believe that future CRMs are going to become more nimble and empower customer-facing business team members to engage effectively, but for the entire company to do that. Because if you think about the siloed contact platforms that exist in businesses today, each business has to select a business operating system, which is email, contact, and calendar. So it's going to be Microsoft 365 or Google Workspaces or whatever they changed the name G Suite to. And then on top of that, you need business software in sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting. And each of those platforms is a separate contact database. So there's siloed contacts in every department, and every team member has a separate siloed contact database that each of them maintain. And I think that's a problem because a company should have a common contact record for everybody in the company, and that contact record should then work back in the business applications and the email platforms that you're using. And that's what Nimble does. And so I firmly believe that problem is getting solved today.
Well, and obviously we've been through some kind of challenging times in the last year or so. Do you kind of think that the pandemic has brought change to the industry? And if so, what kind of changes have you seen in CRMs?
Well, I think that the inability for us to connect personally really makes it more important that you connect digitally in a human way. I think that the more people buy from people that like, know, and trust, the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And it's more important than ever that you prepare before a call, that you know who that business is and what their who that person is and what their business is about, and that you show up prepared and ready to engage effectively, which means you need to do your homework. You need to know who they are, and Googling them is not going to work. And so I think that what's changed significantly is it's becoming even more important than ever for sales reps to prepare before they engage, and then to follow up effectively. And I think that the modern CRMs are beginning to address some of these issues, which is making them a little bit more social, a little bit more intelligent, and a little bit more geared to that customer-facing business team members, and then embedding themselves where they engage. Because we engage in email, but now we engage in Zoom and places like Microsoft Teams, which is one of the reasons why we embedded Nimble into Teams, so that before a meeting you could prepare, during the meeting you could log notes and schedule next actions, and after the meeting you could follow up. So I believe that the modern CRM in this pandemic or post-pandemic age that we're evolving into or emerging from is going to be a CRM that works for you by building itself and then works with you, engage, kind of like a little nudge on your shoulder that basically tells you the things you need to know, because you can't always remember, like, who is William and when did I meet with William and did any of my team members talk to William? It'd be great to just know that, so that when I do engage with you, I'm prepared. You know, William, I'll give you an analogy. When you call American Express, they know who you are. They know who you talked to last, and they don't have to hunt for it. And I think that today, with siloed business systems and siloed contact platforms that people use, it's a little hard to do.
Well, and you spoke there of kind of the modern CRM. What do you see as the technologies that are most important to the future of CRM?
I think that probably the most important is that it works for you a little bit harder, right? Like you having to type data into a CRM, it stinks, right? Nobody likes to type in data. And having to Google the data, it stinks too. So I think that modern CRM should enrich the contacts with people and company data and keep it up to date. And then work where you work, because you don't want to go to the CRM to use it. You want the CRM to be wherever you're engaging. And that might be inside of your email inbox. It might be inside of LinkedIn. It might be in a Forbes article. I can't tell you how many times I've read an article where I see a business making an announcement or an acquisition or whatever, and just by reaching out to the person that's making that decision with an opportunity or message that you could add value to them in this recent change, that opens the door for you to get involved in that opportunity and growth.
Well, fantastic. I think that that's all my questions, but it's been great to speak to you about kind of the past, present, and future of CRM and get your expertise. So thank you so much.
You bet, William. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you've enjoyed this video, please do share on social media and do subscribe to our channel as well. This has been William Smith for CX Today. Thanks again to John for his insight, and thank you for watching. Bye.